Have you ever stopped to think about how a company is actually built? I'm not talking about its product, but its skeleton, its very structure. We throw around words like teams and departments, but what are the actual blueprints? What are the rules that turn a random group of people into a real functioning organization? Today, we're going to explore the architecture of a company.
And that is a really crucial question, isn't it? Because the answer, so often, comes down to its design. A strong structure, well, it can handle immense pressure. It can scale to incredible heights. But a weak one? It might look okay from the outside, but it's fragile, it's inefficient, and it's always just one gust of wind away from tumbling down.
So to really get our heads around this, we're going to use a powerful metaphor: the organization as a living architecture. Seriously, think of it like a building. It's got a foundation, it has a framework, it has systems that make it work, and it's all there for a reason. By breaking it down piece by piece, we can see how the whole thing really fits together.
Okay, so first things first. Every great building starts with its most basic materials, right? For our organizational building, those materials are the roles people play and the functions they serve. These are the absolute fundamental bricks and stones that we're going to build everything else on top of.
The most fundamental piece of all is the core role. This is your individual brick, and it's so much more than just a job title on a business card. It defines the specific expectations, what you need to know technically, sure, but also how you're expected to behave. It's the blueprint for one single position, making it super clear what it does and where it fits. And every single brick needs a purpose. It needs a reason to exist. That's its core function. This is the why. It answers that critical question: what absolutely has to get done for this whole enterprise to succeed? Without a clear function, a role is just dead weight.
Of course, you don't just have a random pile of bricks lying around a construction site. They're organized. That's where Job Family comes in. It groups similar roles together, like all the software engineers or everyone in sales. This creates a kind of scaffold, making it way easier to plan your workforce, hire the right people, and grow talent across the company.
So here's the bottom line for this whole section. Roles and functions are the bricks, absolutely. But what holds them together? It's the mortar. And in our organizational building, that mortar is expertise and specialized labor. It's the skill, the deep knowledge that people bring that turns this collection of individual parts into a really strong, stable foundation. All right, our foundation is laid, it's solid. Now it's time to start building upwards. This is the framework, the walls, the floors, the overall shape of our structure. This is how we bring order and a recognizable form to all those foundational bricks.
And the most familiar parts of this framework? Well, they're departments. Just think of these as the different rooms and walls of our building. You've got a room for finance, a room for engineering, a room for marketing. Each one gathers up a specific type of expertise and draws clear lines around who is responsible for what.
So how are all these rooms organized? Typically through a vertical structure, a hierarchy. Think of this like the scaffolding that organizes the whole project. It starts at the very top with executive authority, which then gets delegated down through management to the people coordinating teams, and finally to the individual roles doing the work. It's all about creating clarity and a channel for communication.
But hold on, there's a huge danger here. A framework with walls and hierarchies gives you order, which is essential. But if that's all you have, you don't really have a functional building. You have a prison, where every room is sealed off from the next. To actually come alive, the structure needs connections.
And that brings us to the really interesting part: the connections. This is the building's wiring and plumbing. These are the systems that let information, great ideas, and work itself flow freely, turning a static, rigid structure into a dynamic, living system.
Now, the biggest enemy of connection in any organization is the silo. This is what happens when those walls between departments get too thick, too high. They're like blocked pipes or hallways that lead to a dead end. Information gets trapped, teamwork dies on the vine, and inefficiency starts to spread like mold in the walls. So what's the solution? It's being intentionally cross-functional. This is the antidote to silos. Think of these as the bridges between towers, the open doorways between rooms, the shared common areas in our building. They're designed on purpose to connect different kinds of expertise, which is where real innovation happens.
I mean, the contrast here is just night and day, right? Walls, silos, they block everything up, they create friction, they hoard knowledge.
bridges, cross-functional teams, they connect people, they enable flow, and they foster the kind of creativity you absolutely need to solve the big, messy problems that no single department can handle alone.
And these connections, they happen on a few different scales. You've got the team, which is like the atom of collaboration, small, fast, and focused. Then you have larger groups, maybe aligned around a big project. And then you have the whole web of interdepartmental relations. That's the total connective tissue of the entire organization.
So we have a solid foundation, we have a smart framework, and we have all these amazing connections. But our building is still just a static object. It's not doing anything yet. What gives it power? What makes the lights turn on? We need an engine. A massive part of that engine is management. And here's a great way to think about their job. They translate the big picture strategy into coordinated, real-world action. They're like the conductors of an orchestra, making sure all the different parts are playing in harmony to create something amazing.
But management can't do it alone. The engine needs fuel, and that fuel is driven by a few key things. Accountability, which ties every role to real consequences. Purpose, which turns just doing a task into making a meaningful contribution. Quality, which sets the standard for everything. And finally, operations. That's the core, where all the planning becomes practice.
And you know what? We can actually measure the output of this engine. That's where a concept like functional yield comes in. It's the tangible, measurable value that a role or department is generating, the real return on investment. It turns a fuzzy idea like performance into a concrete number, so the organization can see what's really working and what isn't.
All right, but our building, our architecture, it's not a museum that's frozen in time. The final and maybe the most critical piece of this whole puzzle is realizing that it has to be an intelligent, adaptive system. It has to be able to evolve.
This is where executive functions come into play. And just like in our own brains, these are the organization's higher-order abilities to think and reason. This is the control tower of our building. It's the system that lets the organization plan for the future, monitor how it's doing right now, and strategically adapt to a constantly changing world. It's the building's brain. So, let's just quickly recap the incredible journey we took through this living architecture. We started at the bottom with the foundation of roles and functions. We built the framework using departments and hierarchy. We brought it to life with the connections of teams and networks. We fired up the engine of performance and purpose. And finally, we gave it a brain with the intelligence of executive functions. And all of that leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. I want you to look at your own organization, your own team. Is its architecture, its blueprint, a relic of the past? Or is it a dynamic, connected, and intelligent structure that's truly designed to win in the future?